I'm not going to talk about the technical stuff. We've had 5 days of intense technical stuff. I want to show you how we map our core engineering principles into and after the define phase which Stefan talked about. So, all of us here, the creators, the maintainers, the facilitators of a decentralized web, we must take a really quick and a really strong reality check. That reality check is whether we know how dangerous are the technologies that we are using and how dangerous the products that we are building are. What do I mean by dangerous? If we take a look, for example, to the most stable, a really mature protocol, which is decentralized, which is over the last couple of years became totally decentralized, which is BitTorrent. The protocol is mature, it works, you don't trust it completely, but you trust it to do what you want it to do. That's the thing with BitTorrent. But BitTorrent has become dangerous. Why? Because I can send a file and share a file with any of you without the author's permission. That's not a nice thing to do. I mean, you wouldn't download a car, you wouldn't steal a bike, you wouldn't do those things. We are focusing on building products that are dangerous. But why are they dangerous? Because the combined effort of our community is to create a system that requires no governance of third parties, to create a system that's run by people, to create methods of sharing and accessing democratized data. Those systems, for all of us in the room, are something that bring us great joy, that bring us great motivation to continue building them. But for some people, we are simply taking the privacy back to us. You can take a look at the agenda for the Web3 Summit, for the DAppCon Summit. I am pleased that I had the opportunity to be addressed to by Richard Stallman, and right after that, by Edward Snowden. That communicates a clear message that we're doing something what in someone's eyes might be considered dangerous. That's the thing which shocks me the most. The next one, the next topic which I want to cover is the other side of the danger behind the blockchain industry. We are now building blockchain infrastructure projects. Never before have you been able to spin up your own network that fast. First frameworks are becoming production ready. We've all heard about them at the conference. We have decentralized organizations, decentralized autonomous organizations. We will be governed by a consensus and a product, engineering product of that consensus which we as humans have. We have decentralized identity. For us to prove without showing everything we got that we can access something, that we hold the rights to something as everybody else does. We already have decentralized financial services. No longer do we have to show our accounts to everyone. No longer do we have to explain why we are doing and what we are doing and pay someone for those services. Trustless computing platforms, which enable most of these things, and distributed storage layers. So, how are these dangerous? Well, these are dangerous in a different way. These are dangerous because every 6 months or so, we see big headlines. Either those headlines are somebody got locked out of his funds, lost them forever. Somebody got hacked in the most simple of ways. Somebody accessed his servers and got the private keys and just used the funds. Then somebody got hacked by a totally new method. Somebody didn't think about all the vulnerabilities of a smart contract. It's to be expected. I mean, the technology has been here for less than we had time to create a strengthened system. It's expected that these systems are unstable. In that way, they're dangerous. Also, what's also dangerous about the technology is the fact that for the average Joe, Bitcoin and ransomware have become synonymous. I kid you not. People I talked about who never heard about Bitcoin and the implications of digital cryptocurrencies all they say when they hear Bitcoin, oh yeah, I have a friend who got hacked and the hacker wanted Bitcoin. So he had to go there and buy Bitcoin and give it to the hacker. That's not how we do mass adoption here. That's not how we want to do mass adoption, definitely. So what I think we as engineers need to do right now is straighten up and deal with those issues. As Stefan said, it doesn't matter if you're making a space shuttle in your garage. Your space shuttle will never outperform NASA's space shuttles. Your space shuttle will never get out of your garage, most possibly. You're not asking the people on the street whether they want a space shuttle in their neighborhood. Probably not. But we need to straighten up and deal with issues. So what do people do when dealing with dangerous stuff? First thing they do is that we all try to make the unstable stable. We know the issues, we know the vulnerabilities, we know everything. We should focus on those and focus to somehow prevent any misuse. We're talking about the end users and we're talking about the platform. We need to make the unstable stable in any means necessary. The second thing, what we do when dealing with dangerous stuff, is that we secure ourselves and others by preparing for the worst. We don't want to be thinking what will happen tomorrow if I get hacked, if my exchange gets its private keys leaked. No, we need to think about that now. And that needs to be a core part of engineering principles in blockchain today. And the third one, that we need to achieve excellence by constantly improving. I will be focusing on this later and how it conflicts with the entire space shuttle thing. So, these three, yeah.
How do you cope with like the ICO, because basically it's not the system that was failing with the ICO, just people were pretending to build something or to deliver a service that was not there. Basically, so how do you cope with that?
So, coping with ICOs is not something that engineers, that is the engineer's responsibility. As Stefan mentioned, when a client comes to you and says, look, I want to put voice recordings on the blockchain because blockchain is a cool new hip technology, and if I have blockchain in the name, it raises my chances of getting an investment. So I see those things like really related in terms of misusing the technology. This way you get the money from the investor. This way you get the money from the people that believed your white paper, your idea, or whatever. Or their greed motivated them to invest in you because they thought you would be profitable. I'm not going to go into details regarding whether people, how we can protect ourselves from the ICO era. I'm glad that it passed. I'm glad that I see people building stuff that really has a significant meaning. But if I had to go back 6 years ago and I had one task just to protect the world from the ludicrous scene that is the ICO in the blockchain era, I wouldn't know what to do. I cannot just go around telling people, oh, this won't work, this won't work. I will just be another guy that doesn't trust blockchain. I think that it's a natural development phase in any technology.
Just if it's like a big threat to your whole ecosystem, because like basically like it generated a lot. I mean, you said like people associate like blockchain to like ransomware. So for me, my environment, I think it's just like blockchain is just a scam and an ICO basically. Like every new company that says I'm doing blockchain, I think most of the people I know we say it's just like bullshit. You know?
People trying to get rich overnight. Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
A follow-up to that, as an engineer, so someone comes to you with a platform that has a token that they want to associate with the platform, but then when you're designing it or you're conceptualizing it as an engineer, you decide it really doesn't need a token or the token's not necessary, do you try to make that design implementation or design suggestion from your end? The token's really not necessary.
Yes, the thing is how we work basically as a company. When a client comes, and 20 years ago, if a client came to you and told you, look, I want my application to be built upon Perl, not PHP. What would you say to the guy? I mean, leave that decisions to me. Don't mess in my sphere of knowledge. Now we have a slightly skewed situation. Perl Foundation wants to give the guy some bucks because he wants to develop in Perl. That's a bit tricky. Uh, those products which rely solely on the fact that they're working on the blockchain and they're able to raise funds because of that, those are empty products, products nobody ends up using. Luckily, we haven't had the chance to work with those products. There are people that come and say, okay, can we put this on the blockchain because of X, Y, Z? But sometimes you get the solution right, and sometimes, unfortunately, you need to cut the rope before anything starts. Because we are a blockchain product development company. We don't want to be focused on bringing everything to the blockchain. So, yeah.
Very short. I like the focus on the risk, and but I was triggered by one small remark that we know everything. I would like to add to that it's very important to realize that you do not know everything.
Sorry,
About the risks, you said we need to prepare for all the risks. We know everything that can go wrong. I would say that you do not know everything that could go wrong, and it's very important to be very open to that, susceptible to that. There's always something that you cannot predict.
Yeah, the biggest issues are the ones that cannot be predicted. The thing is, why I'm mentioning these three core principles, because it seems to me that people tend to forget them while developing in blockchain space. I'm not talking about developing platforms, infrastructure and everything. I'm talking about products on the blockchain. Products on the blockchain don't tend to have stability, security, and excellence by any means as a part of their core principles. The thing is that these three are our core principles, and we've taken those core principles away from the traditional development models and put them into blockchain. I've seen a lot of people on the conference talking about migrating everything they have from centralized software to decentralized alternatives to those softwares. How many of you use Twitter here? Like, I'm guessing mostly all of you. But the fact that you're still using Twitter means that you are not hyped to just using blockchain products. I'm seeing people that solve every problem that exists, a technical problem that exists in the industry with only decentralized solutions. I'm amused by the fact that everybody is so focused on that, and then somebody gets hacked via an insecure SSH server software that hasn't been patched for 3 years. And that's the issue we're talking about here. So I'm going to cover, in short, how these principles apply to our engineering practices and the tools we use in the MVP workshop. So the first one being stability. I'm talking about having the most, the maximum uptime you can get, because you cannot call yourself a beer garden if people come and they don't get beer. You're out of beer. So stability is because we cannot expect blockchain to be a sturdy, stable technology. We all know that. We need to do all the other things that we can to make it so that the user doesn't get prevented from accessing your product. Some of the things that we do in building a minimum viable product for the person is that we focus on monitoring and alerting from day one. It's really nice to see a lot of people talking about monitoring and alerting in the blockchain world of smart contracts, everything, a lot these past 5 days, but that is something that's just emerging. CI/CD is also a thing that's borrowed from the traditional development world, and when put into blockchain industry doesn't conflict with anything. That is something that we do with our projects from day one, and it costs nothing, but it prevents a lot of headaches. Also, if the main focus of the product is not the blockchain itself, if the blockchain itself is something that you just use as a storage layer, as a transactions database, there are solutions like that, there are projects like that, then you focus on something that's that's being built by Amazon, that's being built by third parties which offer you direct access to the blockchain. You don't go out and build your own solution from day one. You need to validate the idea. The second part being security, the second core principle. You can brew the finest beer, but if it gets spilled, all you brewed was spilled beer. Nobody will remember the taste. How we achieve that is data trust encryption at all times, regular audits of both the infrastructure, the code, and the smart contracts. People focus solely on smart contracts where they don't realize that their servers and their application code, however small it may be, is also open to vulnerabilities. Federated secrets. I would mention HashiCorp Vault as a great product for achieving just those things, and I'm kind of surprised that not many people use it in conjunction with blockchain because it offers you an excellent way for storing the secrets. Also, together with AWS's KMS, you can store secrets in a way where somebody gets access to your servers, they get nothing basically. Making security transparent to the end user. This is something that's that in practice has shown us most effect. We have built a wallet application used by a lot of users, a lot of assets under management. We are the custodian and everything. And the thing is, users start losing their funds a bit by bit. Why? Because of insecure passwords, because of 2FAs not being present, because I don't know, they got leaked. How many users check, have I been pawned day by day? Like a really small portion of users. So making security transparent to the end user is something that needs to be done properly. Stefan's slide with the mnemonic and the recovery phrase, I don't think those are good enough. I don't think that recovery phrase is something that communicates to the user, okay, this will make you recover access to your funds, but also if somebody else gets this, you're fucked. Next, with security, established frequencies of key rotations, something borrowed from the enterprise. We need to make sure that we're constantly rotating keys, that we are doing some procedures, some boring stuff. Exciting, dangerous technology, boring stuff really come together when it comes to security. Third thing is excellence. So excellence basically can be communicated as what separates an excellent beer from a good one is the consistent quality. But that's not the only part of excellence. We treat excellence as the practice of making space shuttles in our garages. We have dedicated time to make space shuttles in our garages. We have informed the neighbors, everything. One of you mentioned, I think it was you, sir, you mentioned sending emails over the blockchain. That was a couple of years ago, our space shuttle in a garage. It's important to keep doing stuff, keep pushing the frontiers of what can be done, what can be applicable on the blockchain, but also not to be disillusioned that everybody will tomorrow start sending emails on the blockchain. Apart from that, we have a couple of projects we maintain which are not all blockchain related. And we always try and strive to create demos for novel architectures, projects, frameworks on the blockchain just to test them out so that they can be applicable tomorrow with our clients. That would be the end of my showcase for how we do engineering at MVP Workshop. What I want to ask you right now is we are looking for open source projects which we can contribute to, which you think are interesting and need development work on. We have a lot of high quality people which are eager to help. If we find it a fit, we are eager to help your project or a project that you know which is open source. We also have a couple of ours. You can check them out at MVP Workshop. If you're willing to work with us, you can drop us a line at development@mvpworkshop.co. Notice the absence of the letter M. A lot of people get filtered on that one. And it's time for Q&A.
Talking from an engineering versus business standpoint, when you look at a protocol to use, how do you weigh the decision of, say, the longevity of that protocol, the number of developers working on it, with, say, an application-specific use case where that protocol would be perfect? Talking something more along the lines of, why would you use Stellar over Ethereum when one clearly has a longer track record, when one may be very great for your specific application?
So basically, the thing is, the thing with blockchain infrastructure, the choices are predetermined by the features of the infrastructure. What's a more challenging thing to see is when you get a new when you get a new thing you can do with your smart contracts. When you listen to the concept of meta transactions and GSNs and everything, and you look at them and you see it as a experimental thing, because we like to focus on stable and long-running technologies so far.
Think about it in the context of something like IPFS versus Arweave.
Okay, so the thing with the story, we had like this week choice to make regarding the storage layer for a product that has to be decentralized on its data layer. And we started with IPFS, as IPFS is something which we have been working with for a long time. The thing is that data needs to be indexed, and the indexed data is being accessed by end customers. So it kind of beats the point. If you have a system that's being indexed, you tell the customers, yeah, it's on IPFS, but you need to trust our index, or you build your own. What's the point in that? So next, we started thinking about implementing the DAT protocol. We haven't gone into Arweave. I can talk with you after, or you can just tell me a bit about the protocol right now if it interests people, but I don't think we're running out of time. Next, we've taken a look at more standard distributed databases, which can be both on-premise and off-premise, which can be installed at partners of the client and everything. And we've seen that as the best thing to do, because none of those databases are popular, which we found, because nobody from those companies speaks at blockchain conferences, because they have nothing to do with the blockchain. It's just that blockchain picked, and IPFS picked blockchain community as a way to expand their users. These guys have good products also, are searchable, queryable. I can give you a list which we found, not to talk about in longevity, in length about them, but we found traditional databases which can be distributed in such a way that one node cannot compromise the others, that you can control access, meaning that the on-premise installation is, it's not a slave, it holds all the data, it acts, it participates in the double commit process, but cannot be written to by unauthorized parties. So we can talk about that later, but that is how our process looks like. Every project has unique requirements, and we don't have a silver bullet for any of them. Our silver bullet for storage is IPFS, but then we move from that to see if there are any better solutions.